Good morning, everybody. Bookies, hello and good day. This is Jessamy from Lit Crush, and I want to do a special post today. I don't have any YA to share with you specifically, but I do want to share sort of a stack of books that I'm reading right now. I always have several books on the go. That's my normal default setting. Sometimes I try to be disciplined and only read one or two books at a time, but that's just not sustainable for me. I have to read little bits of lots of books to feel happy and balanced. It's actually a habit I picked up from my in-laws and my husband. The Youngmans always have like a piece of poetry, a piece of Shakespeare, a little bit of this language, a little bit of that language, and I found it really enhances my reading life to do a little bit of a challenging read every day. And not that these are particularly challenging, but this is part of what's on my list right now. So we'll just take it from the top. We have Writing Fiction by Janet Burroway, The Art and Shakespeare of Macbeth, the third edition, Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club, and my favorite, Ellen Montgomery's Complete Journals, The Ontario Years, 1918 to 1921. So, what do we have to talk about? This is actually a book in progress. I've been reading Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I'm reading it with my mom very slowly. In fact, we're reading it over the phone out loud to one another whenever we have a free morning, and it is delightful. It is a murder mystery set in a retirement community, like an upscale retirement community, the sort of place that's like a small cathedral that's been redone to be like a fitness center for rich elderly people. There are 4 club members. These people try to revive dead cases and solve murder mysteries, and each of them is in the retirement home for different reasons, but they're all like 70s and 80s, and we have multiple points of view. We skip around a lot between the detectives, and it's delightful. It's delightful. If you like Midsummer Murders, if you like Hot Fuzz, that movie where the small English village is full of murder, if you like any sort of like Jeeves humor, you know, with the witty English banter, recommend it. He has also written a second book. The name is escaping me right now. The Man Who Died Twice, something like that. So I'm looking forward to reading the first and second books with my mom. I can't give you spoilers because I haven't finished it yet, but so far I'm loving it, and it's a great one to talk about with other people. So, you know, call your mom. Read a book with her this year. See how you can share it with her. That's Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. So, from the top, I'm going to start with Writing Fiction by Janet Burroway. This is the craft book that I'm reading right now. Janet Burroway has something like 10 editions of this craft writing book. I think it was first written, I want to say in the 80s. It's been around a long time, and she works with other writers. My impression is to get more current examples in the fiction. All the fiction excerpts and examples of craft are extremely up to date, which makes me believe that maybe these guest editors helped her pick new examples of like point of view or omniscience, you know. I've heard that people really appreciate the newest version. They like her with these other people. I have never read the older versions. But it's an outstanding craft book. I am just daily reading little bits of it. This is a good example of a book that's really good in pieces, not all at once. So here I am currently reading Point of View. And she starts with all the normal craft book things you would expect. You know, what is point of view, the definitions, kind of the dry parts. But then she just expands in a really chatty, helpful mentor kind of way about the limitations and the strengths of each of the points of view. And why is it the tradition that we don't really use second person point of view in the canon, you know? Why is it usually reserved for experimental fiction, for instance? And I love this book. I think it's been extremely helpful. It's right up there with one of my favorite craft books. So if you're a writer and you're looking for yet another way to approach your writing problems, check it out. She is great about having suggested reading at the end of each chapter, examples of short stories, and usually short stories that you can read to quickly get a grasp of what she's talking about. And there are also prompts to help you sort through your own problems in your own writing. So I really love this book. Highly recommend. I'm nearly done with it. My book dart shows me, I'm about 3/4 of the way done. By the way, these book darts you can get on Amazon are amazing. I often need more than one place to mark a book. It can show you exactly where you left, what line on the book you left off at. Very good. Much better than a regular bookmark. So, book darts, good thing. So that's Writing Fiction with Janet Burway. So I recently finished a book called Wayward by Dana Spiotta, Spiotta. She's a novelist of some good reputation. I think she's a writing instructor and a multiply published novelist. She got me interested in her story because it's about a woman whose daughter is a 16-year-old and whose mother is elderly, and she suddenly is unhappy with her life as a married parent and decides to buy a house and live on her own in a rundown part of town, but in a house that is a beautiful arts and crafts architectural gem that has fallen into disrepair. And she has this romantic fantasy of living a spare life, kind of a minimalist life in the city, and reinventing herself. Dana Spiotta is really good at writing about what it's like to go through menopause. That's a big theme in the book, is sort of the changes that happen, the way you're treated differently by people after menopause, the way you feel about yourself, brain fog, insomnia. I can certainly relate to the insomnia piece. And it's got a lot of humor, and it's also kind of a serious book, especially in the last third of the book. So if you like, what comes to mind is that memoir Megan Daum wrote about it. Life would be perfect if I lived in that house, sort of the expectations versus the reality of the perfect house or the architectural gem. If that's a fantasy you've had, you might want to check out Wayward by Dana Spiotta. Shakespeare, y'all. It's Shakespeare. It's time for Macbeth. You know why? Because it's Halloween. And Macbeth has 3 weird sisters, also known as witches, who are famous for their bubble, bubble, toil and trouble speech. Honestly, that's why I picked up Macbeth first. Arden Shakespeare is a really lovely set of Shakespeare editions. A lot of the book. I mean, the first third of the book is introductory material. It really gets into the history of the way it's been performed on the stage, including, some thoughts on, the way the scenes are conceived and decorated by artists over the centuries, some history behind the politics of why Shakespeare chose to write about Scottish history during the rule of James. It really gives you all the information you need to enjoy the story. And why is Macbeth a story that has survived through modern drama practices? I've been enjoying a podcast called Shakespeare Anyone with 2 actors, female actors, who really break down the plot. And their introduction to Macbeth really helped me wrap my mind around some of the significance of the different characters. Often, I got the point that this was the story of someone with bloodlust and was willing to kill anyone to become king of Scotland, but I didn't understand what kept him going, what kept that horrible accelerating spiral of murder going. And I think I understand a little bit better after listening to their podcast. I'm just enjoying the heck out of it. I was doing a writing exercise where I was supposed to come up with new metaphors every day. And, it was a wonderful exercise. It got me really going on my own novel. I started to think about, well, if this character is a peach, who would be a plum? Thinking in that way. And I realized that when you pick up Shakespeare to read, you will just be confronted with metaphors, several in a page, Also, like old proverbs. He would pull out proverbs of common use and stick them in the play. Like, here's Macbeth in Act 1, Scene 3, line 149. Macbeth's just talking to himself. He's starting to get the inkling that maybe he will be king, according to the witches, and just the seeds of murderous thoughts are just starting to germinate. He uses a proverb to express his ambivalence about getting involved with a plot like that. Come what come may, time and the hour runs through the roughest day. It's just a beautiful little thought about, well, no matter how rough the day is, it will be over at some point. I'm not really in control of the situation right now. Let's see how things go. I mean, that's how I took it anyway. So this is one to read very slowly. I might read a page or two every day. I'm feeling free to write in the book because I find that I engage better with Shakespeare when I'm really studying it or pretending to study it. And I'm hopeful. I'm told that Robert, my husband, might join me reading this. Hopefully we'll be done before Thanksgiving. It's not Thanksgiving. Before Halloween actually comes. It would be fun to have it completed by then. So Macbeth, Arden Shakespeare, number 3, Macbeth. And I'll just finish up here with Ellen Montgomery, The Complete Journals, The Ontario Years, 1918 to 1921. I'm well over halfway done with this. Poor Maud. Maud has suffered a lot through World War I. Part of it is just her inability to put down the newspaper. She's really into reading her newspaper. The War Dispatch every day was her addiction. Now the war's over. She survived the loss of a stillborn child. She and her family have gotten through the flu, which ripped through their community. She actually got quite ill with the flu, but managed to survive it. She lost her best friend to the flu shortly before, in the pages I'm reading right now. Now, her husband is suffering from a really nasty OCD spiral. He thinks he's sinned the unpardonable sin. He's a Presbyterian minister, so he spends his life contemplating theology and, trying to help people through religion, and he is suffering from this horrible obsession that he is going to hell, and so are his kids, and he is kind of incapacitated by it, and she's trying to help him out. She's taking him to nerve specialists or neurologists in Boston. She's trying to let him talk it out. She's trying to get him to move a little bit. They're both getting hooked on barbiturates. They take a pill called Veronal. Oh, you can just see the addiction developing. It's just unputdownable, but she nevertheless is still writing. She has just written Rilla of Ingleside, which was one of my favorite of the Anne books. It was the last one. It's about her daughter Rilla, short for Marilla, because Anne named her last daughter after her adopted mother, Marilla Cuthbert. And Rilla is very, just like the real life Montgomery / MacDonald family. The whole family was very interested in the war effort. They cared a lot. They lost friends, and I'm pretty sure a child of Anne Shirley's dies in the First World War. And she finds a baby and adopts it and raises it as her own as a single girl. It was just sort of incredible and fanciful book with this backdrop of the war. So I thought that made it kind of special among the Anne books. Some of them are kind of just sickly sweet in the middle there, but I like the one with the war included. So I don't know what Maud is going to do after she's done with Anne. I think she still has to write Emily series and a bunch of other books. But her personal life is definitely, not doing so hot right now. So we'll see how Maud does. This is this Schadenfreude? Am I reading this? Possibly. It's pitiful and it's inspiring, and I don't know. It's such a realistic tale. It makes me wonder if I need to start reading just journals throughout the centuries. I think that would be really, really provide some insights into how life was from day to day for women, especially. Women seem to have kept journals more than men, I think. I am aware of Pepys, Samuel Pepys. This would have been, I think, 17th century London, and all the historical events he recorded. I might need to check into that one too. Interestingly, Ellen Montgomery did read Samuel Pepys's journals, and she missed them when she was done with them. So maybe that's what got her thinking about writing her journals for an audience eventually. At this point, she's starting, you can tell she's posturing a little bit for her readers. Anyway, so Ellen Montgomery, 1918 to 1921, some dark years for poor Maud, but we're going to hang in there with her. Well, thanks for watching. That does it for today's post and the stack of books. I think it's always fun to see what combinations people read their books in. So thanks for watching and listening, and please feel free to let me know what you're reading in the comments or drop me a line. Love to hear your comments, love to see who's watching the videos. Definitely share this with your friends, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It really makes me feel like people are watching and that it's enjoyable, you know? So have a great Halloween, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.